Welcome to Inner Peace Lessons, where we uncover the power of your inner presence to transform how you connect with the world. In this video, we explore a profound shift for every woman tired of chasing what resists her. A moment where she asks, "What if true seduction lies not in what I pursue, but in what I choose to release?" If you're ready to stop forcing connections and start provoking desire through your authentic self, subscribe to Viaje Interior now and join us on this journey to awaken your magnetic essence. From calm, from emotional wisdom, and from the serene control of a woman who knows who she is and what energy she emits into the world, Stoicism, that ancient philosophy many believe to be cold, holds one of the most powerful secrets of feminine magnetism: self-control as the highest form of power. As Seneca said, mastering oneself is the greatest power of all. And when that mastery becomes emotional language, a calm gaze, the right words, something changes. Your presence begins to speak before you do. Carl Jung wrote in Man and His Symbols that the male psyche is naturally drawn to the feminine symbol representing mystery, intuition, and emotional power. In other words, when a woman embodies presence, she becomes a symbol, and symbols aren't explained. They are felt. Men don't fall in love only with a body. They fall in love with what they feel when a woman looks at them as if she sees something no one else can. That can't be faked. It comes from your self-control, your intention, and your silent emotional game. That's why today we're going to talk about something deeper than seductive phrases. We're going to explore the art of provoking desire without chasing it, of touching a man's ego without flattering it, of being a gentle challenge that lingers in his mind long after you're gone. Because most women try to impress, but the ones who truly leave an impact speak little, but with intention. There is a huge difference between a woman who reacts and one who chooses how to respond. That difference, though invisible, can be felt, and men, especially emotionally dominant ones, notice it immediately. Stoicism teaches that we can't control what happens outside of us, but we can decide how to interpret it, how to feel it, and how to act from there. That is the foundation of feminine emotional power. It's not about suppressing what you feel, it's about refining it, channeling it, and turning it into a calm force of attraction. Epictetus made it clear in The Art of Living, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. And that phrase is far more valuable in the game of attraction than it seems. Imagine you're on a date. He says something ambiguous, something that could offend or confuse you. A reactive woman explains herself, defends herself, or tries to prove her point. But a stoic woman stays silent for a second, looks at him, smiles ambiguously, and then responds with a brief sentence that shows she hasn't moved an inch from her center. That pause is worth more than 1,000 words. It's the subtle sign that she is not at the mercy of what he says or does. She doesn't surrender to the moment. She owns it, and that mastery is felt, even if nothing is said. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." In seduction, that strength becomes something men cannot resist. A woman who doesn't get shaken, who doesn't compete, who doesn't beg, who knows when to speak and when to let silence do the work. Because sometimes, desire is born precisely from what isn't said. Believe it or not, silence is a powerful tool in attraction. Instead of rushing to fill every space, the Stoic woman observes, and when she speaks, she does so with weight, with direction, with intention. Because she understands that not everything is won by explaining, some things are won by waiting. Jung also understood this through deep psychology and symbols of transformation. He explained how the male unconscious is drawn to what it cannot fully possess, to what arouses and awakens him but does not immediately give itself away. It's a psychic dance between the desire to dominate and the fascination with what remains free. A woman who masters her emotions is not cold. She is dangerous because her power doesn't lie in shouting it, but in calmly suggesting it. She is the kind of woman who leaves emotional marks, not because of what she says, but because of what she makes him feel. And that calm comes from self-observation, from constantly asking herself, am I acting from need or from choice, from anxiety or from confidence? A woman who lives from that place doesn't need to manipulate, doesn't need to chase. Her mere presence, the way she looks, the rhythm of her speech, already communicates something far stronger than any neckline or compliment. True feminine presence doesn't compete, doesn't try to please, doesn't try to fill spaces. It sustains itself like an inner pillar, and that center is magnetic because it's rare, and rarity intrigues. Mystery doesn't lie in silence. It lies in knowing when not to say everything. When a woman applies the principles of Stoicism, something changes in her language too. She no longer speaks to please. She speaks to reveal or to provoke, but never to compensate for lack. She doesn't over-explain. She doesn't justify her emotions. And when she allows herself to be vulnerable, she does so from choice, not from emotional overflow. That is the difference between a woman who moves and a woman who impacts. One responds from the desire to be seen, the other from the awareness of what her presence already provokes. That's why, on this path, emotional self-control is not repression, it's alchemy. It is the ability to transform every emotion into something that serves your purpose. If you feel desire, you channel it through your gaze. If you feel anger, you turn it into powerful silence. If you feel tenderness, you deliver it with elegance, without fear. And that, dear woman, is power. The kind of power that doesn't shout, that doesn't demand, that doesn't chase, but waits and provokes others to come to you. Carl Jung wrote in The Dynamics of the Unconscious, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. What if seduction isn't just about the other, but about you? About how deeply you can know yourself, and from there, provoke. Men feel it when they're with you. Maybe they can't explain it, but they sense it, and they are drawn not just to you, but to how they feel when they're near you. Confused, excited, hungry for more. Because a woman who doesn't react automatically, who doesn't get thrown off by any stimulus, is a woman who becomes unpredictable. And unpredictability seduces. There is something more seductive than a perfect body. A word spoken at just the right moment, with the right intention, in the exact tone. Emotional language, the kind that doesn't need to shout to make an impact, is the silent art of attraction. A woman who masters subtext doesn't seek approval. She speaks from her center. She says just enough. And what she doesn't say is even more powerful. Subtext is what lies beneath the words. It's the vibration you transmit when you speak. And if there's one quality that Stoicism trains masterfully, it's this emotional clarity behind every action. Seneca wrote, "The greatest freedom is to be the master of oneself." And when a woman speaks with emotional intention, without anxiety or need, what she's really saying is, I am free. I don't need to trap you. I'm simply allowing you to see me. Carl Jung, in The Psychology of the Transference, said that in every human interaction, unconscious elements are projected. In other words, you're not just talking, you're triggering inner states in the other person. And if you know how to use that with elegance, you can make a man feel deeply attracted without him understanding why. A woman who masters her emotional language doesn't reveal herself impulsively, doesn't over-explain, doesn't need to share everything she feels to be understood. Because when she looks, when she's silent, when she slowly speaks a phrase full of subtext, something inside him is awakened, and that is what he doesn't forget. What makes a woman irresistible isn't what she says. It's what she makes him feel with what she says. Imagine you're in front of him. He expects you to act like most, to laugh too much, to try to please, to follow the script. But you don't. You speak with pauses, with a firm gaze, in a low voice, and when you say something, you do it as if it were a secret only he deserved to hear. That is emotional seduction, and Stoicism is the path that teaches you not to speak from anxiety, not to fill silence out of discomfort, not to seek approval to avoid rejection. A Stoic woman speaks when she wants to communicate, not when she needs to fill silence, and that detail changes everything. Jung said in Psychological Types that every person emits a psychic energy that affects the emotional field of others. And women with centered energy, with sober language, awaken something deep in men: admiration, desire, and above all, curiosity. Because a woman who doesn't reveal everything about herself, who responds with well-measured ambiguity, becomes a mystery. And mystery is the food of desire. Now pay attention, mystery is not coldness. It's not about acting distant or disinterested. It's about playing with what is said, about speaking emotionally without being obvious, about giving him an emotion he can't define. And that's exactly why he wants to feel it again. Emotional language consists of three key elements: a soft, confident, and slow tone, a steady gaze with a touch of ambiguity, and intention not to please, but to awaken something within him. When you speak to a man, don't explain everything, don't give him maps, give him signs, small phrases with emotional weight that leave doors open. Because what is fully given is no longer desired. Be like a poem that cannot be understood all at once, but is felt from the very first line. A single phrase spoken in a low voice, after a pause, can have more impact than an entire speech, especially when loaded with intention and subtext. For example, instead of saying, "I really like you," you could simply look at him and say, "There's something about you I find hard to ignore." That phrase doesn't flatter him directly, but it makes him think. It opens an inner question, and that is irresistible. Most women try to win affection by talking more, showing more, giving more, but what's truly seductive is giving less with more intention. As Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, the quality of your thoughts determines the quality of your life. The same applies to your words. The emotional quality of your phrases determines the type of man you will attract. Speak as if each word carried a carefully chosen emotion, not to convince him of something, but to make him feel something he can't explain. And if there's something men never forget, it's how they felt with you, not because of what you did, but because of what you provoked through your language, your energy, your gaze. A woman who masters emotional language never needs to ask, "Do you like me?" She knows it, and she confirms it with silence, with short phrases, with long pauses where desire quietly grows. And if the moment feels right, you can also use soft statements with double-edged emotional intent, something like, "I don't know what it is about you, but my body does." That phrase doesn't need explanation, the image remains, and so does the emotion. Jung, in The Ego and the Unconscious, explains that the most powerful experiences are not immediately understood. They transform us from within. And that is exactly what happens when a woman speaks from her emotional center. She doesn't explain herself. She continues to vibrate within him. Because true power isn't in saying everything, it's in knowing when to say it, how to say it, and above all, when not to say anything. That is the alchemy of subtext. That is the elegance of emotional mastery. And that, dear woman, is the essence of someone unforgettable. There are phrases that are not just words, they are emotional triggers, open doors to the male unconscious when spoken from the center of an emotionally aware woman with self-control and strategically subtle intent. They can mark a man's emotional memory forever. These phrases aren't said to convince or impress. They are said like someone tossing a stone into a lake, knowing the ripples will eventually reach the depths. They don't seek an immediate reaction. They aim to leave a mark that, over time, becomes irresistible. The first phrase is, "Dear, there's something about you that throws me off center. I don't even know what it is." It's a confession that appears vulnerable, but in reality, it's full of power. Because what you're really saying is that he has an effect on you, one that even you can't fully understand. That makes him magnetic in the male unconscious. The desire to feel special is activated, to be the only one capable of shaking the balance of a woman who is normally firm, grounded, and serene. That emotional ambiguity draws him in, because it's not a declaration of love, nor a direct compliment. It's an open mystery. This phrase shouldn't be said just anyway. It only works if it's delivered slowly, like a thought that slips out unintentionally after a shared silence, after a gaze held a few seconds longer than expected. You don't say this over text or early in a relationship. You say it when the emotional tension is already there, when you know there's a current between you. Carl Jung wrote in The Ego and the Unconscious that every meaningful encounter is based on a projection. This phrase is exactly that, a projection of power onto him. You're giving him something without giving it all, and that sensation, not having full control, is addictive. The second phrase is, "You have a way of distracting me, and you don't even realize it." This phrase carries something almost playful. It's not flattery. It's not surrender. It's a way of showing him his power without making him feel completely in control. You let him know that he affects you, that he stirs something in you. But you also hint that he's not even aware of it. You make him feel powerful, but you also challenge him. You awaken his desire to know more, to prove he could affect you even more if he wanted. Tone is crucial here. It shouldn't sound rehearsed or calculated. It should come in a moment of laughter, of playfulness, of emotional closeness, said with a slight smile, like someone throwing a soft provocation. This phrase achieves something rare. It emotionally unbalances him because you give something and take it away at the same time. In Symbols of Transformation, Jung wrote that what does not become conscious appears as fate, and that's exactly what this phrase does. You bring to the surface something he didn't realize was happening, and once he knows, he can't stop thinking about it. It's not that you lose focus, it's that now he needs to confirm it. Don't say it by message, don't use it to flatter him. If you're not emotionally centered, this phrase only works if you know you're playing from your center, not from the need to get attention. The third phrase is, "If I kissed you right now, I know you wouldn't be able to resist." You're not asking for a kiss. You're not even saying you will kiss him. You're making a statement. You're declaring an inner certainty. You're taking emotional control of the moment, and you make him imagine it. You make him feel it, but you don't move. This phrase must be said with presence, with a steady gaze, in a low voice, after a conversation full of emotional depth, on a night charged with tension. Don't say it unless you're anchored in yourself. Don't say it if you can't hold the silence that comes afterward, because that silence is what creates the real impact. It should not be said jokingly. It's not a line. It's a mixture of certainty and play, of restrained desire and emotional mastery. Because what this phrase does is not provoke an action, it provokes an image. And as Jung explained in Man and His Symbols, an emotion tied to an image is more powerful than 1,000 rational words. When you say this to a man, you create a scene in his mind, and that scene returns to him when he's alone, when he remembers, when he looks for you without knowing why. These phrases work because they don't give everything away, because they don't explain, because they are emotionally ambiguous. And ambiguity, what cannot be clearly defined, activates the deepest layers of masculine desire. What these phrases have in common is not just their structure, it's the energy behind them. If you use them from insecurity, from the need to be liked, they lose all their power. But if you use them from your center, knowing you don't need anyone, but choosing to spark emotion, then they become art. A woman can learn phrases, anyone can say them, but only a woman with emotional presence can make those phrases resonate inside him for days, weeks, even years. Because what truly stays in memory is not the phrase itself, but the feeling it left behind. And that feeling is built through details. A steady gaze, a pause before speaking, a deep breath after saying something, the exact tone that leaves him unsure whether it was a provocation, a confession, or a dream. Jung spoke of feminine archetypes as inner powers that operate beyond conscious thought, and a woman who is connected to her emotional power, to her calm, to her mastery of the moment, embodies those archetypes. She becomes more than a woman, she becomes a symbol, and symbols, as he said, are not understood, they are felt, and what is deeply felt is pursued. So this is not just about the phrases, it's about you, the woman who says them, your tone, your center, your silent power. It's about no longer being in the energy of chasing, but in the energy of provoking, letting the words be vehicles of your magnetism, not your lack. These phrases aren't shortcuts, they are tools, but you are the fire that lights them. And when you learn to speak with intention, from your calm, from your gaze, you stop being just another woman. You become an emotional experience. And men don't forget experiences. They chase what they can't explain. They desire what makes them feel unique, challenged, and emotionally moved. That is the key. It's not what you say, it's where you're speaking from. And that, dear one, is what makes you unforgettable. A woman can have presence, intelligence, even emotional beauty. But if she acts from the wrong place, the magic breaks. Attraction is not just about what you do, it's about the energy behind what you do. And this is where many women unconsciously sabotage their own power. One of the most common mistakes is acting from lack, from the urgency to be liked, to be chosen, to feel validated. That energy is perceptible. It's not spoken, but it's transmitted. A gesture that seems too eager, a message sent without pause, a phrase said just to confirm something. And when he senses that need, his desire begins to fade, because men don't desire what chases them, they desire what challenges them emotionally, what moves them without begging. Emotional anxiety, no matter how subtle, pollutes the vibration, and desire needs space to grow. Another common mistake is using emotionally powerful phrases without understanding the timing, without caring for the tone, or without sustaining the emotional energy those phrases require. Saying, "There's something about you that throws me off center," over a text with an emoji or like it's a joke, is like throwing poetry into a void. It loses all its impact. It's not the phrase that seduces, it's the moment, the pause, the tension around it. Using these phrases without intention or emotional mastery not only empties them of meaning, it turns them into cliches, into copy-pasted lines. And a sensitive man feels the difference between a woman who embodies what she says and one who simply repeats it, hoping for a result. It's also a mistake to constantly seek attention, trying to keep him interested by responding quickly, sending indirect messages all the time, constantly testing his interest. That creates emotional fatigue. Masculine desire needs space, mystery, an emotional pause where he can miss, imagine, and reconstruct her energy in his mind. If you're too present, too accessible, too obvious, there's no room for him to move. And if he doesn't move emotionally toward you, there's no tension. And without tension, there's no desire. Another fatal mistake is confusing authenticity with emotional overflow. Showing vulnerability doesn't mean telling everything, doesn't mean crying on the first date, doesn't mean talking about your traumas to create connection. It means sharing by choice, not from the wound. A man may feel compassion for an emotionally overwhelmed woman, but not desire. Attraction doesn't come from emotional chaos, it comes from contrast. A woman who feels deeply, but chooses when, how, and how much to show, that is power. That is emotional magnetism. A woman who exposes herself with awareness generates respect and desire. The one who overflows without a filter only creates confusion. And finally, one of the most subtle yet most destructive mistakes: talking too much, filling every silence, explaining what you feel, justifying every emotion. Silence is not your enemy, it's your ally. It's in silence that tension is created, your calm is revealed, and your presence speaks louder than any word. Speaking without pause, rhythm, or emotional direction is like music with no tempo. It bores, it exhausts, and it leaves no room for him to hear the most important thing: how he feels about himself when he's with you. That's why every mistake made from anxiety, from need, from impulsiveness, sabotages your ability to create authentic desire. You don't need to be perfect, you just need to be centered, to inhabit your presence, to use your words consciously, and to always remember what a man truly desires is a woman who knows how to make him feel something he can't explain. There is a kind of power that needs no words, no force, no demand. It's the power of a woman who has stopped trying to be liked and started fully inhabiting herself, who no longer seeks to be chosen because she has chosen herself, who doesn't chase love because she has become an experience of self-love so deep that the authentic is drawn to her and the superficial fades away. Stoicism is not coldness, it's contained fire. It's knowing that you have emotions, desires, impulses, but that you lead them. They don't lead you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Perfect tranquility consists in the good ordering of the mind, in your own inner kingdom." And when a woman orders her inner world, the outer world begins to respond differently. She is no longer the one who chases. She is the one who inspires movement in others. Carl Jung said, in The Dynamics of the Unconscious, that the process of individuation, the journey to becoming who you truly are, requires integrating the shadows, emotions, and impulses without denying them. A woman who masters her emotional game does not do it through a mask, but through integration. She doesn't reject her desire. She turns it into a gaze. She doesn't suppress her emotion. She turns it into a pause. She doesn't act from fear. She acts from her center. A woman like that doesn't need strategies. She is the strategy. Her way of being present, of speaking little but with purpose, her ability to remain silent without losing presence, her emotional language full of subtext, pause, and inner rhythm creates a magnetic field that cannot be explained, only felt. And that is the greatest secret of deep attraction. It's not what you show, it's what you make someone feel. Men don't fall in love with a woman because she tries. They fall because when they are with her, they feel different about themselves, more alive, more desirous, more motivated to discover what lies behind her calm. So every time you wonder what to say, how to act, what strategy to use, remember this: there are no magic phrases if there is no magical woman behind them. And the magical woman is not born by accident, she is born from inner work, from the daily decision not to react, not to dramatize, not to chase what doesn't align with her worth. She knows that what is meant for her will come, because her energy calls it without begging, because she has cultivated a presence so strong, so refined, so authentic, that only what is true dares to stay. True seduction is not theatrical, it is stoic, it is emotionally intelligent, it is intentional, and above all, it is selective. It is that woman, not the one who impresses with intensity, but the one who leaves a mark with her calm, not the one who dazzles, but the one who transforms, not the one who needs to be pursued, but the one whose mere presence leaves behind a question no one can stop trying to answer. And if this video reminded you of the power that was always within you, subscribe, because what's coming next goes even deeper.